Hey everyone, welcome back. Now we have discussed the various assert methods. As of now we have written a single assertion for a test case. This is a very common that one test case may have the multiple expected results. So you will have to write the multiple assertion in a single automation test case. In this video, let's see how to write a multiple assertions in a test case. First, let's understand a scenario where we should use the multiple assertions. This is the leave list page of the Orange HRM application. In previous video, we have written an assertion to check that all checkbox is not selected by default, right? Now let's assume here you need to verify few more expected results such as pending approval checkbox should be selected by default and search button should be enabled by default. In this case, one automation test case will have the multiple assertions. In previous video, we have already written a script to check whether the all checkbox is selected or not. Let's reuse the same script and write the additional assertions for pending approval checkbox and search button. So let me go back to Eclipse. Here you can notice at the line number 41, I'm checking whether all checkbox is selected or not. So after checking the all checkbox selected status, we have to write the validation to check whether pending approval checkbox is selected by default or not, right? So to check that, we have to first identify the locator for pending approval checkbox. So let's go to the browser and identify the locator. I will right click on pending approval checkbox. Click on inspect. Here you can notice this is the HTML code written for pending approval checkbox. Here you can notice it contains the ID attribute, so I can use the ID attribute value to identify this element by ID locator. So let me copy the ID attribute value. Now I will go back to Eclipse and write a line of code. Driver dot find element by dot ID. Here I will specify the ID value. If you want to check whether the checkbox is selected or not, for this Selenium provides is selected method which will return boolean value. So let me call it is selected. So this is going to return a boolean value. If the checkbox is selected, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So let me store the result into the variable. So I'll create a variable boolean. Now let me specify the variable name pending approval. You can specify the name whatever you want, right? So once the line number 47 is executed, Selenium will check whether the pending approval checkbox is selected or not, and whatever is the value that would be stored into the pending approval. Now we need to write an assertion to check whether that checkbox is by default selected or not. Here we are expecting it should be selected by default, so we should use the assert true assertion. So let's write it. I'll say assert dot assert true, and here I will specify that variable. So let me select it. I'll put the semicolon at the end. At the line number 51, I'm specifying the assertion, right? This assertion is going to use pending approval variable. If the variable value is true, this assertion is going to pass, otherwise this assertion is going to fail. After verifying the pending approval checkbox, now we need to verify whether search button is enabled or not. So let's go back to the browser and identify the locator for search button. So I'll right click on it, click on inspect. Here you can notice this is the HTML code written for the search button. This web element contains a name attribute, so I can use the name attribute value to identify this element by name locator. So let me copy this name attribute value. Now I will go back to Eclipse and write a line of code. Driver dot find element by dot name. Here I will specify the name attribute value. Selenium provides is enabled method to check whether the button is enabled or not, right? So let me call this method is enabled. If that web element is enabled, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So let me store this value into a variable. So I'll create a boolean variable search button, right? So once the line number 57 is executed, Selenium will check whether the search button is enabled or disabled. If it is enabled, then search button variable value will be true, otherwise it will be false. Now it's time to put the assertion for it. As we are expecting that it should be true, so here we should use assert true assertion. So let's write it. Assert dot assert true. So I'll select the assert true and I will specify the search button variable. Let me put the semicolon at the end. At the line number 59, TestNG will check the value of search button variable. If it is true, then this assertion will be passed, otherwise this assertion will be failed. So let me save this code and format it. So I'll press the Ctrl, Shift and F. So now we have written 3 assertions in this particular test case. When I execute it, then TestNG will verify all 3 assertions. If all 3 assertions are passed, then only this test case will be passed. If any of the assertion is failed, then TestNG will mark this test case fail. So let's execute this test case. I'll right click in the class, run as TestNG test. Now you can see Selenium has launched the Google Chrome browser. It is opening the login page of Orange HRM application. Selenium entered the username, password, clicked on the login button, home page is displayed. Now Selenium clicked on the leave button, and now Selenium has verified all 3 assertions. If all 3 assertions are passed, then only this test case will be passed, right? If any of the assertion is failed, TestNG will mark this test case fail. Let's go back to the Eclipse console and see the status of the test case. So here you can notice check if all checkbox is selected, test case is marked pass, which means all 3 assertions have passed. So now we have seen how we can write the multiple assertions in a class. Now let's meet in the next video where we will discuss the types of the assertion.